Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to another episode of this sort of online version of Epistemics. Hopefully, you guys are well. It's nice to see a lot of you guys already leaving some comments on the comment section. Without further ado, let's get into this, God willing, inshallah. Today on the show, I have our beloved brother Nadeem Ashraf, also known as Dawa Motivation on social media. Assalamu alaikum, Nadeem.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Imran Saab.
How's it going, bro?
Alhamdulillah, bro. Really happy to be here.
How is lockdown for you?
Lockdown is a bit of a knockdown, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's fine.
No, alhamdulillah, as we were discussing before, if you watch the news, you're going to be affected, and you're going to get a bit depressed, anxiety, and that kind of thing, because the news they're made to make you worried, right? But you just gotta, as Muslims, we, as per the hadith, ajib is the affairs of the believer. When something bad happens, he says Alhamdulillah. When something, good happens, say Alhamdulillah. So we say Alhamdulillah. We just need to maybe realign, adapt to the situation.
Yeah, let me challenge you on that a bit, bro, if you don't mind.
Go for it, bro.
I love doing this with you. I'm sure people noticed from the epistemic show we did as well. You said you said you've been avoiding the news recently and not been following it too much. Now I can see it from one perspective that you know what's going on, you know how bad it is, and the last thing you want to do is make it more difficult for yourself by watching things which are going to be, which can result in a sort of negative mindset and anxiety, maybe anxiety and depression for you, but just like a sort of a low mood, etc. And you want to stay positive and make the most of it. So I can see that perspective, but do you really feel that there's a lot of misinformation out there, or are you just avoiding the news because you just don't want to keep hearing the same thing?
The misinformation part, that is disputable. It's disputed, may not be true. It's good to be aware of things, but there's a difference between being aware and then obsessively following the news every single second. See, now we're all on smartphones. Wi-Fi is available, 4G, 5G, pardon saying that word, right? So now everybody's at home and everyone's online and they've got smartphones. And what they've done is they subscribe to all the different news outlets. So there's a difference between being aware of what the editors are saying, the government guidelines of staying at home. We Muslims, we take precautions, of course. Our Islam, our tradition is full of taking precautions in every situation. I mean, also, Islam has a solution for everything, how to deal with everything psychologically, how to deal with things on a societal level. Islam has the answers. And there's also a lot of comparison between quarantine and staying away from the plague. There's prophetic traditions discussing this. So we have that. We know how to deal with this. It's happened in our history. But it's the difference between being aware, bro, especially like the first few days, even we're human beings. I was watching the news and oh no, like it's the end of the world. That's it. It's all over now, But the thing is, that's not the mindset of a Muslim or a human being. It should be like that. Be aware, but don't be obsessive about the news. That's why
we'll definitely talk about that. And also, one of the sections of today's session, I want it to be on the Muslim mindset and how it should be to make the most of any given situation. No matter what's going on. We'll definitely get to that, bro. But let's just say salams to, mashallah, there's quite a few people on. So we've got Tasneef Sheikh, I think, brother Hamid Beg, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam, Awais Shah, Saeed is on, Tech Geek Wiz is on, Hira Osman is on, brother Yusuf, our beloved brother Yusuf Ponders is on, mashallah. Afsan, Shah, Pakiza Chaudhry. So loads of brothers and sisters, mashallah. I'm sure many of them that have been following your work as well. And may Allah bless you all. I'm not taking everyone's name because there's quite a few names here. Otherwise, we'll be taking names all show. But alhamdulillah, may Allah bless you guys for coming on, and hopefully you guys will find this beneficial. So
I can't actually see the comments, bro, but it's frozen. But
I'll pop them up whenever there's a question. So guys, if you're watching this and you have questions for Nadeem or just generally on the topic or any related question, please leave it here and I will pop it up on the screen as we go along through the discussion and just get Nadeem to give us thoughts on those questions too. Okay.
If I have the answers, yes.
Yeah, if we have the answers. So topic today, Nadeem, is Islam, atheism, and Pakistan. Yeah. I think I put that right the way I titled it. Very comprehensive title, a lot that we can discuss. But this is the topic we touched upon last time, and just to give a bit of context, the reason I wanted to discuss this topic with you, or why even discuss this topic in the first place, is, well, there's a few reasons. Number one, because you spent a lot of time in Pakistan over the years. You know, you actually relocated there for a while. You know, with family, you were in the Dawa circles, in the Islamic circles. You were on campus. You know, you saw the ups and downs and the pros and cons and all of that type of stuff.
I get a chance, I still go as well. So still go.
Yeah, absolutely, you're back and forth still as well. So, and me personally, you know, I have an affinity towards Pakistan for my own reasons.
Yeah.
Just because of one of the reasons being, and not for any nationalistic reason. Let me just put that out to make that very clear.
You've got a Pakistan flag at the back, bro.
Well, yeah, it's a thumbnail. It's a thumbnail, bro. It has an objective. But for me personally, it's because I went through my own ups and downs in my life, you know, leading up to me starting to practice Islam and coming to Islam. And the only time I would find solace and relief from my issues and problems was the time I spent in Pakistan. So that developed a very personal relationship for me as far as Pakistan is concerned. So it's a very important topic. I wanted to address this with you. So let's get into it, bro. So let's talk about, and we have in the previous episode of Epistemic, so I don't want to touch upon the same things, but you mentioned you had some new things to sort of discuss and share. So why don't you get into it, bro? Let's start on the topic.
Yeah, I mean, just some random thoughts, no particular order, but I think there are many reasons why. I mean, the thing is, a lot of people, especially those Pakistanis or Muslims live in the UK, they may even ask, Pakistan, atheism? Like either they're in denial or they don't know how bad it is in certain quarters. So one of the things, the reason they have this is because they're probably not involved in engagement, in dawah, in discussing with the youth. So they're working away and that kind of thing. So they've got this image that, look, which is the old image, which is, you know, Pakistan. And in fact, anybody who goes there, if you're a first-time traveler, let's say non-Muslims, Pakistan's open now and after lockdown, you go there, yeah, Islam is in front of you. The masajid, there's people with obviously beards and shawakamis and traditional clothing, women wearing modest clothing. So Islam is there. But once you scratch the surface in some universities, in some areas, or maybe education, then you'll see actually there are some issues, underlying issues, which need to be nipped in the bud, need to be engaged with. So it does exist. You can't say it doesn't exist. There are many reasons for why atheism has come about, why it exists in certain.
Yeah, that actually ties in with Faizan Ali's question. He said, what could be the core reason? Is there one reason? Is there a multitude of reasons? Is it a combination of different things for the spread of atheism atheism and liberalism in particular in Pakistan? So why don't you touch upon that, bro?
From my experience, from my limited experience, from those brothers who are actively engaged in education out there in universities amongst the youth, we've come up with many reasons, but I think there are three main reasons you could possibly bring into it. And then underneath those reasons, there's a plethora of reasons. One is desires. What I mean by that is a lot of families, a lot of kids in Pakistan, they live in a background, live with families who you could argue they've been restricted. So in the UK, we're not restricted. You're almost like free to do whatever you want, even Muslim Pakistani families. In Pakistan, there's a lot of restrictions. If it's not your family, it's your relatives. If it's not your relatives, it's a society, the mahalla, as they say. So you can't just do whatever you want. You can't do anything which goes against the cultural norms, religious traditions. So what happens is when you, for example, get a chance that you feel repressed and you go to university, because all your life you've been crying out for giving your opinions. Just to give you a caveat, in Islam we do allow opinions. Of course, in our history we have scholars who've written about anything and everything. So it's not, there's no such thing as police thought in Islam. But in Pakistan, what happens is, from again my experience observations, our parents and their parents, it's a case of, and I touched this in the last video, which is just follow Islam and that's it, and I'm not going to give you reasons for that. So because these kids, they've been dying for attention, they don't get that attention from their family. When they get to university or when they get to social media, this is when they just shout out. They're trying to get attention of teachers. They're trying to get attention, and they'll follow anything from the West. People like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and others. They'll follow them and they'll say, I believe in this because, and I think the main reason is because they're free to speak about it. Is that so there's desires, there's attention seeking. The other one, bro, is that for example, there's an inferiority complex. So very similar to the first reason as well.
So before we move on to the second one, bro, let's just analyze that point you just made there, right?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that there is a lack of love and interaction and engagement between that family dynamic between the parents and the children, which leaves a need in the child, which is then expressed in some strange ways when they get to university, or in a way where they just want to get attention from people. So essentially, are you saying that some of this is just underlying emotional reasons as to why this is happening? Not that they're not genuine, and not that we're undermining them and saying that, oh, it's something silly. Of course not. Yeah. Human beings are emotional, and we're more emotional than anything else. And emotions drive us pretty much. Yeah, that's what makes us human.
Yeah.
But what you're saying, you're outlining is that one of the main reasons for this atheism, however, and I don't think it's that prevalent. I think it's quite small and insignificant, but nevertheless, the whatever amount it's there at is because one of the main reasons is emotional reasons.
Yeah, and I want to also clarify, you know, when you go to Pakistan and families are quite close, I'm not saying that, but it's when it comes to religion, when it comes to Islam, when it comes to Islamic thought, it's you could argue that a lot of it's a case of rules and regulations, and they've not been taught that Islam, you know, has amazing foundations, because they just follow what their parents are saying without even thinking about it deeply, and that's a lot of us as well. So so it's not a case of there's no family. There's a beautiful family in Pakistan, of course, absolutely. But when it comes to religion, when it comes to Islamic thought, so as soon as somebody from an atheist writer or a speaker or social media, and there's many now, and Brother Maraz is mentioning one now, as soon as they bring a question that questions Islam, and we have the answers for, these kids, these youth, they don't answer it. And then they see they're free to express their thoughts, they're free to express their opinions. Why can't we do this thing? So rather than, and I'm going to a solution quickly, rather than studying Islam for themselves, the foundation, the Aqidah, the belief, they're going to react. And if they don't know the answers, they're going to go towards atheism, you know, liberalism, secularism. So this is probably what I've experienced and I've seen, bro.
But again, that sort of ties into emotional reasons again, because if you think about what's happening is there is a need that's being expressed by a person which is not being met.
Yeah.
The need not being met is resulting in an emotional reaction, which is turning them away to another way, which is fulfilling that need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay. So that's there are underlying, and this is not only in Pakistan. This is across the board.
Yeah, this is across the Muslim world. Bro. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's one main issue, and I agree. What was the other thing you said? What was the other main issue that you highlighted?
I think I mixed up two reasons here. There's one is desires, just general.
Okay, before you do the second reason, bro, if you don't mind, let's just address this question. Now, Harris Sultan has been, you know, many people in the question section under some of my videos have mentioned, okay, respond to Harris Sultan. He seems to be a spokesperson for Pakistani atheists, right, online. To be honest, I haven't checked out much of his stuff. The little I've seen, I haven't found it of much intellectual rigor or any, to be honest, any. I haven't come across any substantial.
I see a couple of his videos, bro.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna generalize, but from what I've seen, there's been nothing substantial that I've seen that can be or should be or needs to be addressed. That's not going to be addressed when I'm responding to X, Y, and Z.
Well, he had a one bold title video we don't watch, which was he calls it the best argument against God. So I watched it, and what basically is, but what he's saying is, he's saying that there's like so when we discuss the universe and the origin of the universe, right? He's saying that theists are saying there's a creator, some power, some entity created the universe and began it. That's the atheist position. That's the theist position. The atheist position is that the universe came from nothing. And what he's saying, Harris Sultan in this video, is that the discussion gets locked. It gets stuck. It doesn't go anywhere, right? They go their reason. They go. This is what he's saying. So he goes. The best way to counter this is say, okay, forget that. Who created? Was a creator or nothing or nothingness? Which religion? Which God? The Hindu God, the Christian God, the Judaism, or any other gods. So he's saying which God? He's jumping the gun. So
the biggest philosophical issue there, if you want to call it a philosophical issue, is he's changing the question.
Yeah,
the question.
So this is what I'm saying to Brother Muqeed Khan. In that way, he is a joke, because it starts off interesting, like the best argument against God, and it starts off interesting that they can't answer it. I got the answer. And when I was listening to it, and I was thinking, okay, this should be interesting, because usually, bro, just want to move away from this as well slightly, or expand on this rather. A lot of atheists, especially people like Harris Sultan and many others who are sincere or insincere, we can't judge their sincerity, of course, but they like to mock. That's what I've seen with, especially with Pakistani atheists. They like to mock more than anyway. You could argue, and I've seen, when I go to Leicester Square, central London, we've engaged with people of Oxford, we've engaged with people of my town, Crawley, and the Southeast. When you discuss with the everyday atheists, there's a bit of a decorum. They'll actually talk to you. They'll discuss with you. There's a bit of manners. They won't they won't be like the far right hatred people. In Pakistan and Pakistanis online, they are so vicious. In fact, they lose their argument because of their mockery.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's that, in Pakistan, we're up and up on, so these are my people, and they've done this to me. And again, it ties up what I was saying, that, they've been repressed from their family, they may be bullied amongst their school kids during childhood. They've not been able to express. There are some of our ulama, our scholars, who've not allowed them to ask questions. That does exist as well. So it's a combination of reasons. So now it's a case of, because their questions have not been answered, the biggest questions of life, the meaning of life, is there a creator, is there a God, what's his nature, his essence? Because these questions have not been discussed and addressed, they feel that they want to mock. This is a load of rubbish. And they probably then watch the Western philosophers, people who are anti-religion, not all of them. They follow them. And rather than being nuanced and calm and say, okay, look, I have a question. I don't believe in this. I don't agree with it. Rather than being calm, they just want to mock. And they're so vicious in their mockery. And I think they lose the argument just by saying that. They won't be taken seriously.
Yeah, just to give my take on that point you just made, if that's what he articulates. See, the issue is I don't think he probably understands this, but because according to him there's a loggerhead, or there is a stalemate when it comes to universe from nothing and God created the universe, which there isn't if you really logically and rationally think it's true. The issue is, bro, the question of which God is a secondary question.
Yes.
Once you acknowledge there is a God, then you ask the question, which God? To ask which God before you acknowledge a God, it's senseless, because it's like asking something about a thing that does not exist.
Yeah.
Now, unless you're just trying to have a bit of fun, then you can do that. But these are serious questions, and I don't see why anyone would have the time to waste and just have a bit of fun with things like this. People have got lives. You got lives to live. We don't have forever. So these are serious discussions. So I think that needs to be clarified.
And also the oneness, if you don't want to, in Islam we can prove not just through rationality, but many other
absolutely
that a God exists, a creator exists. But then it's very crucial, and this is where a lot of people in Pakistan, I would argue, even practicing Muslims, because I'm sure a lot of people are watching practicing Muslims.
Yeah.
Even we have not studied the oneness of Allah properly. And in a profound way. And not only we've not studied this, but we've not presented this. And then the people who are Pakistani atheists and people who are anti-religion, they need to study this. And I really want to see a video where they've actually discussed the oneness of God in Islam properly, and then make a video. Then we say, Pir mazayega, as you say. Then you can decide, okay, now you can do they're sincere or not. But right now, they don't go there. They don't want to go there. They just want to mock and give a few statements out and just take the mic. That's what I've seen.
I think it ties in with Hiro Osman's point or question. They say atheists only think Muslims or religious people don't have logic or logical reasons that only they have. And by the way, just the point before we go into this, I think what we need to do is hold the higher moral ground, which is not to play their game and be insulting towards them, although we may realize that they may be coming across in a very disingenuous way, in a very nasty way, but to play the game and to name them as well, we're not doing ourselves any favor. We have to, number one, hold them a higher moral ground as Muslims, and secondly, just let Islam talk for itself and to show them the truth of Islam by its strength as far as its intellectual foundations and its spiritual foundations, etc. Inshallah. So just wanted to make that point. So we should refrain from being aggressive, unnecessarily aggressive towards these people, inshallah, and just let Islam do the talking.
That is not the point of the Epistemics channel or our channel. Absolutely not. It's invitation, not attacking.
So what do you think about this point, bro? Just going into this.
Well, I think what she's saying is that she's saying, if I understood it, that atheists or atheism or people who are non-Muslim, they think that only they have, they use logic.
Yeah, what do you think about it?
Well, this is obviously this is a misunderstanding, because Islam, we have, in our tradition, our scholars since the last 1400 years, they've not only discussed logic and rationalism and mantak and all these beautiful subjects, they've gone in deep, they've gone in depth. They go in depth now, the scholars. And a lot of it is Arabic culture, there's a Persian literature out there. It's our own ignorance, it's our own fault that we've not discussed this or looked at it. But yeah, I think it's more of an ignorance than anything that they think we can have logic. Of course we have logic.
I think there's a bit of a spectrum here as well. There will be those atheists who genuinely think that there is no intellectual, rational foundations to Islam. They genuinely believe this. Hence they come across a certain way. I think there's the other end of the spectrum as well, where you have some atheists who are dead scared of Islam intellectually because they have understood that Islam has actually very strong intellectual and rational foundations as opposed to any other tradition. And the best they can do to overcome that, or not to even have to deal with that, is do stuff like Dawkins does, for example, which is resort to sophistry, mocking, etc. Because I think he's intelligent enough to realize this. I mean, look, he writes an entire book addressing the Muslim world, Outgrowing God, right? But he doesn't want to engage with the Muslim. Like that in itself highlights something that's
a psychological issue, isn't it? It's that when you can't defeat something, you attack it.
Yeah,
that's the playground.
And the strength of the attack also is telling of the underlying fear that the person may harbor in their hearts in regards to Islam when it comes to its intellectual foundations. So that's something to really pay attention to as well, inshallah. But here's another question, bro. Lobna Osama says, I believe that to fight back all these chaotic atheism propaganda, or to deal with this through raising the education with the parents, or the parents teaching the kids in regards to Aqidah. If you have the right Aqidah, you will never be deceived by any fake thoughts. Now, let me just ask you a question. Why don't you define for us what Aqidah is first and foremost? Because there may be some people on the channel that may watch this video that may not understand the term. So let's define that and just quickly talk about that for a second, inshallah. What we mean about that, why it's important.
The Aqidah that we need to study, that everyone needs to study, and there's various levels, obviously. What we need to know is that it's a very basic thing, which is that Fitrah, that Allah absolutely exists. There's absolutely no doubt, that Allah is one in His nature, in His essence, Ahad, Wahid, and that Allah deserves all glory, praise, and worship. I think this aspect has been missing in our Aqidah circles. What's happening in the Muslim world in Pakistan? Again, this is not an attack, this is an observation. And through this observation, we can maybe, inshallah, be agents of change. A lot of our scholars, bless them, a lot of our teachers, imams, they're teaching Aqidah in a very dry, very abstract way. They're teaching, like, for example, just memorize words. We all do that. Even with me in Dawa training a few years ago, it was just memorizing words and just memorize and just say it without, conceptualize it and without understanding it, internalizing it. So all of it's happening. They discuss it. So they'll discuss, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's one, Rububiyyah, Uluhiyyah, Asma wa Sifat, They'll discuss the Tawakkul Allah, Rizq Allah, without going into details and without making it relevant to this day and age. So it's like, almost like, a lot of the students of Madaris and a lot of Pakistani Muslims who go to masjid classes all over Pakistan, they memorize this stuff, but they never get a chance to internalize it and never get to actually practice it in their life. So Aqidah is like it's an abstract idea. It's an interesting thing which I need to just get, pass the test for. In Pakistan, everything's exams, right? Number one, kitne marks are. It's all about marks and exams, and which they are really good, mashallah. And this Aqidah becomes out of that as well. So
Are you trying to say that when it comes to Aqidah, your essentially your doctrine, your belief, you're saying there are levels. So there is an aspect of it which is the knowledge and the information, which is derived from the core sources, which is the Quran and the Sunnah, the Quran and the prophetic tradition. And then there is the implementation and internalization of that information.
Yeah, and then manifesting in your life.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point you've touched upon, bro. And this is a problem many of us have, including myself and many people I know, is it's easy to access knowledge. And you can become good at internalizing information and collecting information and memorizing it and keeping it up here. But it's very difficult sometimes to take it from here and allow it to enter into your heart, right? Where it actually then manifests and changes you. It manifests in your life and it changes you as a person and it changes the world around you, literally, right? What's going on there? Why this disconnect, bro? Why do you think there's this? Because we know in Islam, this is what it's about. It's belief in line with actions. Whenever Allah speaks about belief in the Quran, almost always, in many cases, Allah says, those who believe and do good deeds. Belief and action always pair together, right? Yeah, so it's not a case of, like, you can memorize the Quran and you can memorize its meanings, or you may know the Arabic well enough where you know what Allah is saying, but having it as information is one thing, but internalizing it where it changes your being is a second thing. Why are we not being able to go from A to B? That's the question.
I wanted to add an observation which may directly answer that question or not, but the other observation is those who have studied Aqidah, those thousands and thousands of madaris, students, imams, what they studied Aqidah is as like a weapon or tool to attack other sects and ideas. So, in Pakistan, they have the thing, the munazara, the refugee debates, This has been also a cause of many of the youth turning away from Islam as well, because all they see is people attacking each other's beliefs. So rather than using it in positivity, like either coming to a common word or common ground and tackling the issues of people who are not believing in Allah, in Islam, they're fighting each other. Also, on very, you could say the Aqidah, obviously, it's a profound subject. You've got the basic and you've got the advanced stuff. Islam, we have the advanced in all the subjects, in all the sciences. You've got the basic hadith sciences, you've got the advanced, You've got the basic tafsir, the exegesis, and you've got the advanced. In Aqidah, what we're doing is we're studying the advanced and we're studying the bits of Aqidah where we just want to attack other beliefs who are already Muslim. A lot of groupism, a lot of my Jamaat, your Jamaat, that kind of thing. A lot of the Aqidah discussion has been wasted on that. So Aqidah, the word Aqidah, bro, in Pakistan is used all the time. Aqidah, they always use it. The kind of Aqidah they're doing is just bashing everyone, rather than teaching our youth who are watching social media, who are getting confused, having shubahat, rather than talking, look, let's sit down, let me discuss with you Allah's greatness, His mercy, His names and attributes, and that kind of thing.
So you're saying that science of studying Aqidah is being used in the incorrect way, whereas it was devised and these maxims, if you like, were put down by the scholars so that they would help preserve the clear understanding of who God is, and so that people would not fall off track based on certain external influences that were coming into Islam, with some certain philosophical influences and certain other influences. But the way we have ended up using it is to now use it as ammunition to now attack other people and groups that we may disagree with.
And also just to add quickly, just a quick point, just remember it as well. The text that has been taught, the famous text like Aqidah al-Wasatiyah and Tahawiyah and others, right? Is that these texts, they were at their time, they were replying, like Ibn Taymiyyah's Wasatiyah, which was written between Asr or Dhuhr and Asr or something like that. It was written as a letter for someone who had doubts that time. So, countering Jahmiyyah, Qadriyah, and all the other issues. That was then. So what they need to do is, so they address the issues of their time. We need to address the issues of our time. It's, liberalism, secularism, atheism. So they're just studying the same thing which was taught 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, but I think what was so for example, when you look at Aqidah Wasatiyah, I think there are universal principles which apply across the time, bro. Because Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah was phenomenal as far as articulating certain truths in a way which not only intellectually satisfied you but spiritually satisfied you. So I think there is good, no doubt that we need to learn. But I think the key point you touched upon was it's what you're doing with that information now.
Yeah, and relevant.
Yeah, are you internalizing it and allowing it to change you and draw you closer to Allah?
Yeah.
Or are you using it as a, primarily as something to use to attack people? Which
our teachers, our ulama, our scholars who teach Aqidah all over Pakistan and all over the Muslim world, they just need to replace the words with liberalism. When they're teaching the kids, when they're teaching youth, the madaris, they say, okay, this is liberalism. These are their modern day scholars. These are their books, and this is how this point doesn't make sense. Secularism, feminism. The other thing I want to also address quickly, we can build on this, inshallah, is in Pakistan. Again, I'm trying to make it contextual for Pakistan. Is that a lot of people, they won't be obvious atheists. They won't be blatant atheists. They'll always come under the guise of some other ideology or thinking. Right now, I think one of the biggest is feminism. So so they come with, so they start off very sincere and they have some points because there is a lot of patriarchy. There's a lot of male dominated, and I'm the man of the house, and you just stay in the woman kitchen. There is that. We're going to put our hands up. As I'm not going to say this is something we need to improve on. Yeah, Islam is perfect, Muslims are not. Just keep remembering that. Yeah, Islam is perfect, Muslims not, especially Pakistani Muslim men, right? We've got a lot of improvements. So the women, a lot of their demands are actually valid. But what they've done is they've gone a bit too far. They've gone extreme. So they started off just rights, then discuss feminism, and then from there it's closet atheism. And I think
that's a good point. That ties in with what Maryam is saying as well. Cleaning Islam from wrong cultural teachings is important, as many in a way due to culture, not because of Islam. This I think is a very, very important point, which is that it's inevitable. It's going to happen to some degree, but it happens more so in certain cultures. So, for example, and I'm saying that because I'm from a Pakistani background as well, and I've seen this myself, which is that the lines between culture and Islam are so blurred from the outset that it's almost impossible for you to undo that if you like that cloth which has been stitched with these two different threads. That unless you have a certain amount of understanding and knowledge of Islam, you can't undo it. Which leads to misunderstandings and emotional agitation, and then pushes people away as well. So it is a big problem. But I think the solution to that is education, bro. What do you think?
100%, bro. As absolutely. And this Islam encourages seek knowledge. It's our own laziness. It's our own distractions. It's our own ghafla, heedlessness, that we just do not seek knowledge. It's only when we're attacked. And even with atheism, we shouldn't. This is advice for all the brothers who are watching, and for myself. Let's not make so you may be attacked by atheism thoughts. Yeah, there may be a book, a YouTube video, social media, which have tried to put shubhat in your mind. So now we get defensive. We react to this. Yeah. So we will go back to studying Islam and our Aqidah, our beliefs, and then we try and attack back. But what we need to do while we're studying Islam, while we're seeking knowledge, is not seek knowledge with the intention of attacking and refuting. Yeah, it may start off like this, maybe your spur, but then you've got to work on your intention. Because in Islam, we have this beautiful sincerity, ikhlas, intention. It's a huge, huge thing in Islam. It's a huge deal. It's a big deal. So now
that's a very good point, bro. A very important point, which is your intention. When you study things, it shouldn't be for
refuting and attacking
for yourself. And bro, I've noticed this myself. So I think it's important to give practical examples wherever we can. And we're not saints, bro. We have our own issues, right? So one of the things I've really dealt with over the past while, and I'm just trying to really focus in now, especially we're going towards Ramadan, is, and I find myself falling into this a lot. And I don't know if this is the same with you, especially when you're involved in social media stuff and you're involved in Dawa and you're online, etc. Something that happens is whenever you're studying, you shift between wanting to do it for yourself, but before you know it, you're reading something and you come across something and you're making a mental note of it to share with others, right? Which is not a bad thing necessarily, but if that becomes the focus, then you lose sight of your original reason for beginning to do that. And I find that a big struggle with myself as well. And I think this, from what I've thought about it, the solution to this is just training yourself, becoming aware of your internal state, becoming attuned with your internal state, and then keeping, and it's difficult. It's not easy, bro. It's very difficult, very, very painful, and it takes a lot of energy to do this, to keep a check of yourself. But as soon as you find yourself doing this, to establish why you're doing this, correct your intention, and then go back in. And over time, you'll get good at this. And inshallah, if God wills.
That's why Tazkiyat al-Nafs, purification of soul. And when you read some of the stuff, there's little bits I've read, I need to read more, is that, it's not going to be easy. It's actually a struggle. And this with Musab's question, if you don't mind,
before you do that, bro, I wanted to ask you. There is a lot of there seems to be a lot of build up in you. I'm just analyzing you psychologically, and I see because I noticed you getting very animated with certain points, especially about parenting and. Especially about the elements of not giving the answers and providing the answers to the youth, and then they're going off on tangents. Yeah. You seem to be very emotionally invested and charged about these issues. Why is that the case, bro?
Because I went through it. Very simple, bro. Look, born and bred in the UK, British Pakistani experience. You could argue easily that a lot of us, we were not taught Islam as Islam is. We were taught a very cultural Islam, ritual Islam, a few do's and don'ts, halal meat, can't have a girlfriend, can't go to the pub. That's it. Just a few rules and that's it. There was nothing about Islam as a way of life. It answers your existential questions, and there's metaphysical questions. What's going to happen after we die? Who is Allah? What is His nature? What is His essence? Nothing, bro. Look, that's a different discussion. We can blame them or not. That's a different thing. Yeah, parents and uncles, because they didn't know. Bichare, they didn't know themselves. So what are they going to teach us? Yeah, this has been going on for the last decades and last 200 years, and that's another discussion. How it happened, decline, everything. So this is what I went through, bro, and that's why I'm giving my experiences. That a lot of us, and this is what the conversation I've had with other people, that we just weren't taught Islam as it should be. This beautiful, amazing, profound religion which answers questions perfectly. So profoundly, so deeply, it just, each point is like, wow. Each eye of the Quran is like, you read it and you think, wow. So that's the reason, bro. Can I quickly pick on this brother's question?
No, don't pick on the brother, but read his question out.
No, I can pick on the question, bro, not the brother. Musab bin Umair, mashallah, as people, maybe there's a quote from any non-Muslim watching, Musab bin Umair was one of the greatest callers to Islam in our history. Amazing story. Do read his story. He went to Yathrib, and a lot of people came to Islam because of him, a role model. Anyway, Musab says, do we have to know philosophy to counter atheism because I attack with science? I would say, and this is a bit of a plug-in, from someone who's been involved in Dawa and alhamdulillah had the honor of being involved, is the way organizations like IRA have packaged the Dawa training, the way they brought together all the different sciences, that Allah, existence of Allah, rational arguments, oneness of Allah, Tawheed, how knowing Allah has effects on your life, right? The Quran, the Nabuwa, Prophet, how to look after new Muslims. All this has been, if you study, if you go to training, it's always a bit of philosophy, bit of logic, bit of science, bit of reference, just enough for you to know. Just enough for you to engage in the dawah or engage in calling people to Islam. So Musab, I would say that that's the right way. Before doing that though, bro, if you want to go in depth in philosophy, my experience, and this is from brothers, there's so many. Musab, this is addressing you, bro. There's I know at least 2-3 situations in the last 4 or 5 years where sisters, they wanted to study philosophy to refute atheists. They studied philosophy and they become confused themselves. SubhanAllah. They lost their deen. They became atheists, right? So don't do that. That's dangerous because the philosophy.
Let me ask you, bro, on that.
But let me finish the point.
Yeah, go on.
No. Is that, bro, before studying philosophy, study the Aqidah of Islam with an authentic scholar. I know the brother is in Lahore, I think. I know this brother, There are many amazing scholars there. We mentioned H.M. Zubair as one. There's many others, right? So sit with them, study the Aqidah of Islam in depth properly. Give Islam a chance first. And then also work on your tazkiyat al-nafs, purification of soul. Then a lot of istikhara and the dua to Allah, then delve into philosophy. And then using the dawah. That's my opinion.
So just quickly on that, bro, I wanted to ask you, you said the sisters studied philosophy and they became atheist. What did they study specifically?
bro, I can't remember. This is 2014.
Okay,
But I remember they want to do. They. I think there was. They read the book, The God Delusion, which seems to be a very popular book amongst Pakistan. Good marketing by them.
That's I would say that's one of the most terrible examples of terrible philosophy that's out there, to be honest, or just reasoning in general, bro.
And that's been the most widely read in Pakistan.
That book is but you know, look, I'll be honest, my perspective has changed quite a lot on this particular topic over the years. Now, something I want us to appreciate is, firstly, I agree with you 100%. I think before we study any subject for the Dawa, if that's what the intention is, we need to have a good grounding in our own tradition first and foremost, without which we would be influenced by the thoughts of whatever we're studying. But that being done, so say you've got that, I think if philosophy, and it's important to highlight this, if philosophy, and see, there's many issues here. Sometimes some Muslims tell you to completely stay away from philosophy, because when you say philosophy, they're thinking of a particular thing. They are thinking of kalam, they're thinking of a certain type of dialectic, which was a certain type of influence that certain philosophy or philosophical ideas had, and the way Muslims took that on board in our history, and therefore they went off completely off track, right? But I think if you study philosophy as a general subject, and when I mean study, even if you just do a superficial overall study, what you would see, bro, is pre-17th century, 16th, 17th century, if you go all the way back to Plato and Socrates and these guys, a lot of their ideas, bro, were very religious, quote unquote, right? They weren't sort of the typical skeptical atheist type of philosopher. For example, if you read the dialogues of Plato as an example, you would see, and Socrates is the main character in his dialogues. They were people that believed in the higher power, in the divine. They believed in knowledge, which was. No,
you said their first principles were already intact, so they built.
No, but I'm just trying to highlight some things here, which is their views. Like, for example, I'll give you one example. Socrates had this idea of what's now known as the doctrine of recollection. Now, you'll find this very interesting, bro. Now, the doctrine of recollection basically is that before we're born in this life, in this material life, our souls, whatever realm he's talking about, our souls have knowledge which is instilled within them.
Subhanallah.
Right? And when you come into this life, you're not learning knowledge externally. You're basically recalling. You're recalling knowledge by engaging with the world. Similar to the concept of the Fitrah.
He knows this Islamic thought.
Here's another profound gem that I came across now. This doctrine, his idea was, and they said that this is all knowledge is instilled within the soul, and then we are just reclaiming it in this life by learning. It's interesting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, where Allah speaks to the angels, I'm going to create this being and this thing cause bloodshed and corruption. And then Allah teaches Adam the names of all things. So again, we learn this idea that Adam is taught of knowledge prior to him coming into this world and learning externally. So I'm not saying there's we need to correlate. I'm not saying we have to match. I'm not saying we have to use these ideas to promote Islam. No.
But
what I'm trying to highlight is certain nuances, bro, which is that the philosophers of old, the ancient world, some of the ideas, bro, were quite profound as far as this is what we say. A sincere, honest individual, when they use sound reasoning and they reflect upon the world, they'll come to certain truths and certain understandings, right?
You've looked at this, bro. You've studied all this stuff now, recent fine collections. But before you've gone there, you've got a good grounding.
Absolutely. So, and here's the thing now, and there's a reason I'm giving this, and I think it's important. Now, when you come down closer to modern day times, right, to now, so you go from all of those guys in the ancient world all the way to the modern day, 16th, 17th, 18th century, bro, we see a big shift in philosophical thought. You see the advent of the existentialist philosophers, and this is where they decide, and most of the existentialist philosophers were
Christianity, you could argue.
Well, yeah, that generally created this cascading motion of free thinkers who were who had this resentment towards religion generally, right?
Which gave them the energy and the push and the drive too, you know.
Yeah, and I think and also World War I, World War II, this really influenced the thought of certain philosophers as well, because of what they call the irrational aspects of reality, because they didn't understand why things like this would happen, where Islam explains these things. But we see in the 17th and 18th century, bro, there's a shift, especially with the existentialist philosophers, where most of them were atheist. And then their atheism started to make it in its way into philosophy. That's why it's very dangerous to study philosophy as in just philosophy of the past 300-400 years.
If philosophy doesn't mean atheists.
No, of course not.
An inquiry, just a genuine inquiry. Bro, I just thought of the point when you were talking, just made me thought, and which was I made a point of it, but now I can maybe articulate it. Is a lot of people from the Muslim Ummah, the youth, especially Pakistanis, like you just said, you quoted recollections from Socrates, and he's talking about how souls met and everything. That is the same thing as discussed in the Quran in certain surahs, right? Yep. If an imam from Sargoda or Chakwal or from a town or a city read that, and he's taught a youth that, the youth who's listening, the educated youth, when he listens to that, he'll go, yeah, interesting. When the same thing is said by a philosopher in an English book written by a Westerner, he'll be going, wow, what an amazing point. You see what's going on here? We are impressed by the wording of what he said. We have this ilm, we have the knowledge, it's in our tradition. These questions, like you just said, you made a really good comparison about Islamic thought and about how Socrates talks about this. So when they say it, when a non-Muslim says it in a written nice book or an amazing YouTube video with a lot of good font and Adobe effects or whatever, when they say it, the Pakistani atheist sitting as Pakistan, or a youth, not an atheist, they get impressed. And that's why they're lured towards this, bro. And that's why they want to study this. They don't want to they don't want to sit in a madrasa, a wall madrasa, and, where there's no AC, no fans, that kind of thing. That's what the issue is, really.
And let me just clarify, brother. I don't present these examples to get people interested in philosophy and think it's amazing. No. What I'm trying to highlight is that it's a general subject. It's just to do with thinking and inquiry. Right? And this is something, generally speaking, what Allah in the Quran encourages us to do, to reason, to reflect, to think. Look, I've not been formally trained in philosophy. Let me put this out there, right? So in a way, one of the benefits of that is that I don't have any, if you like, I don't follow a paradigm of a way of thinking, right? As far as what to think of philosophy. I see it as, okay, it's Allah's given us the aql, the intellect. We have to use it. It's something that's actually puts the human being on a very special place, which is that it distinguishes us from all other creatures. Allah tells us to use the aql, right? To reason, to reflect. Even going back to that story of when Allah taught Adam the names of things, we don't know what Allah taught him. We don't. The scholars have given their opinions as to what these things were. We don't know what they were. But what we do know is that Allah taught him, meaning Adam had the ability to learn and he had the ability to convey, which is what he did to the angels. Adam told the names of these things to the angels. And then Allah told the angels to fall into prostration out of respect. And that's where Iblis decided not to. But the point being is that what we're learning here is that this creature, the human, has the ability to learn, to reason, to reflect, and to share. Right? So it's important to use this. Call it philosophy, call it whatever you will. But be very careful. Meaning that study your tradition first. Islam has everything we need. Even if you never study philosophy ever in your life, you don't need it.
Don't become obsessed with philosophy. Just because
it's just like any other subject.
Big words, intellectual words, sophistry, sophisticated words, people with ties and people from the West, and they use it in a very sophisticated way. That's it. Philosophy is amazing. But we just need to be disciplined and study our own tradition, study the exegesis of Quran and Hadith sciences.
Absolutely. Everything is there, bro. Allah's given us everything, honestly. But let's address this question here at this point. Brother Zishan says, Assalamu alaikum. I am an ex-atheist from Karachi, Pakistan. The reason I became Muslim was because of the issue of objective morality, which cannot be proven in or on Darwinian, on the Darwinian mechanism or the Darwinian atheistic approach generally. This is a very, very good point. And SubhanAllah, this is an example of when the human being just uses sound reasoning, right? They don't have to be a trained philosopher or a scientist, just sound reasoning, and then they will come to the clear conclusions. And obviously, Allah guides who He wills. But let's touch upon this point about morality, bro.
The way I would just address this is I can think of a story in. I want to give a experience I had in Namal. Namal is a university in Pakistan, and we had a table, we had a Dawa stall, that sort of event, as we do. We try to engage with the youth. And over there, one of the brothers, mashallah, with us called Basim, very learned brother, mashallah. This one guy, he was, typical, he goes, oh, I don't believe in religion. I don't believe in what you guys are mullahs, typical, trying to attack, trying to think. So the brother asked, so why do you not believe? Let's have a discussion. And the question of morality came up. And then when the brother cornered him about, okay, so what are your morals? What are your views on this? What are your views on that? And then he asked him the question, and I hope you don't mind me saying that, but he said that, so can a mother and a son have a relationship? Or can a, father and a child, yeah? And he was stumped. He goes, and then so rather than answer the question, he started mocking again. So this is what happens in Pakistan. They're not going to address the question. They're not going to go into it properly. They don't want to think about it. They'll just mock. And when you discuss it with them properly and you're calm about it, and that's probably a lesson when you do, we just be calm and just say, okay, where do your morals come from? What's the foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things that, again, intuitively, bro, we're as human beings, we're moral beings, bro, right? We live morally, right? Every action we take has a moral, if you think of it this way, it has a moral outcome, a consequence. It's either good or bad. Right? Each action is either good or bad, right? So when it comes to morality and you really look at it from the perspective of atheism and naturalism, you can't make sense of it. It's reduced down to is just intuition, and that's it. There's no account for it. There's no justification. And that is enough to trigger someone's fitrah and awaken the truth within someone. Yeah. Pineapple is on the chat. I'm not sure if Pineapple is an atheist or an agnostic or someone looking at Islam.
Someone came up, it's gone again.
Yeah, I pressed it by accident. But Pineapple, if you have any specific questions, please just post it now, because I can't go back on the thread, and I will put it up and then get Nadeem to
like pineapple on pizza or something like that. Yeah.
Brother Hasnan, let me just put it up now. He says, Nadeem Bhai, sorry for being late. One of your...
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, Hasnan Saab. It's okay, bro. I forgive you.
He's forgiven you.
Is that it?
Okay, so...
You're not late, really.
So here's Pineapple. He's put something here. Okay. So please address questions, not suggestions. We are dealing with existential crisis. What is the objective proof for the existence of God? If objective morality depends on God, then how is disobeying God immoral? No, I think so. When it comes to the moral point, I think you're getting some things wrong. It's not dependent upon God. What we're saying is that it's anchored within God. So we say things are good because God is good, and God by his nature is good. Therefore, what God commands is good, right? So, because I think this question may be veering into the sort of Yusrifo's dilemma, but just to clarify that, so we believe things are good, and God commands what God commands is good because God is good, and therefore God is the one that determines what is good and bad. Now, as human beings, innately we have a sense of certain things which are right and wrong, a general understanding, and this is quite powerful because from a fitri perspective, we have a baseline understanding of good and bad. And when you get revelation from Allah and you read it, then you see it fits this position. Yeah, there's two pieces of the puzzle that come together, and it clarifies that. Now he's asking for proofs for God's existence, bro. What would you say to our beloved?
Well, I would like to have a chat with Pineapple. Maybe we can have a Skype call. I want to see what his likes are. Does he follow football? Does he like football? What his background is, what's he been learning, what does he do? And I'd like to chat to him accordingly, because maybe I could give some rational arguments for the existence of a creator. We could discuss that. But we want to, if he's sincere, and I'm sure he is, and other people who are similar, then I don't know what is that will appeal to you more. Maybe you just need to say how Muslims, how we have a big thing when it comes to manners. Yeah. How we behave with other human beings. A lot of people in non-Muslim countries, especially I live in Crawley, and there's like a whole bunch of youth culture. They just want to be rebellious. They don't know what manners are. I was actually chatting to someone non-Muslim. I said, "Do you know what manners is?" He started laughing. It's completely gone. It exists in British society 30, 60 years, in the 50s, 60s, or maybe towards 60s. But just general manners of like respecting parents, not speaking over them, and these small things, they forgot it, bro. So maybe he needs to see the manners of a Muslim. That might trigger something within, because in Islamic thought, as you know, bro.
Yeah. So definitely hit up brother Nadeem Ashraf, Dawa Motivation, and he'll have that conversation with you. Now, just just if you quickly address this question before we sort of move to wrapping this whole discussion up, bro, and giving some tips. We have Akash here. He says, I want to do a master's in philosophy. Should I avoid it? So I'll let you give your take and I'll give my take on it as well. And then we move
to avoid it. Well, just a funny one. Have you done the basic in philosophy? Anyway, I'm sure you have. But before you done the masters, there's the basic. Before the basics, it's study the Aqidah of Islam in depth with authentic scholar. I think this sister, if I'm not wrong, she's from Multan. There are amazing scholars there, female teachers, male teachers. If not online, we're all at home. All the scholars are at home now. Before they said they were busy. Now they're online as well. So learn Aqidah, learn the beliefs of Islam in depth, and also learn the purification of the soul, because we need to keep our iman intact, because you just don't know with philosophy. Yeah, it could go into areas which may confuse you. Then what's the intention behind it? Are you going to learn it because it sounds good, feels good, amazing? I want to sound good. I want to go and make some videos and have a lot of followers, or is it to use in the calling to Allah, into call to Allah, to His oneness, to His worship? That's what we need to do.
Yeah, to be honest, my only thing would be I would say it's on a case-to-case basis, bro. So it depends on the person, where they are with their Islamic knowledge, where they are with their life in general, the reasons for wanting to study a specific subject, not only philosophy, any subject, to be honest.
I think this is correct. She's a blogger, mashallah. She's taking training from myself and others. So
mashallah. To be honest, then you probably best placed to advise the sister, bro, inshallah. Let's move on to Mr. Atheist. He says, what is your equivalent for Fitrah in science? Now, I think this is quite loaded. This is quite a loaded question, because there's a lot of, you could put it in a paragraph.
Epistemic fans.
Yeah, but just in a nutshell, I think one of the underlying reasons for this question is because there is an assumption that science is the be-all and end-all of everything and anything. Science is just a method. There doesn't have to be an equivalent of everything in science for that thing to be true, right? It just doesn't make any sense for that to be the case.
Science as the measure.
It's not the yardstick in any way. It's a method of inquiry to learn about the world around us, as there are other methods and other ways of attaining knowledge.
Well,
now,
sorry, go on.
Yes, yeah. So, and the only other thing we'll say, if you're interested, if you are of that disposition, you love the science, then I would say read Justin O'Barrett, read Oliver Petrovich. They are two psychologists who have studied children, and they've done a lot of research on the natural innate belief of human beings in children. There's a book by Oliver Petrovich. He has a book called Natural Theology. That's a really good book with a lot of academic very academic book. And there is another book by Justin. There's several books by Justin O'Barrett, Born Believers. Yeah, so definitely check that out. Moving on swiftly, bro. Let's get to the wrap up in just a couple more minutes, bro. So far, we've been talking about Pakistan, atheism, tips, philosophy we discussed. Now, I want to just sort of shift the conversation a bit, bro. Obviously, we're doing this online and not in person this time around because of, we are in the midst of a global pandemic, coronavirus outbreak. People are off work, they're at home. Most people are really reevaluating life and what it's all about, including Muslims, including us. Yeah. So it's no one's free from this. Yeah, I'm Muslim. I'm free from having to reassess my life in any given situation. That's not the case. So, and also at the same time, bro, we are moving towards a very special month, which is Ramadan.
Yeah.
So I want you to address the Muslims. How do we make the most of this lockdown, this break, if you like, from our day-to-day lives? And how do we make the most of this Ramadan, which it will be a different Ramadan for many of us, if not most of us, than any other Ramadan in our life or that we've experienced while we've been practicing? How do you make the most of this coronavirus lockdown and this Ramadan? And also for non-Muslims, how do we make the most of this time that we have to ourselves? And yeah, so let's start with Muslims.
For the Muslims, my humble advice would be that there's a lot of Muslims. The wording they use when the mosques are shut, no Jummah, no 5-time Salah, no Taraweeh prayer. It's almost like that they've been worshipping these actions. So almost a lot of people are worshipping the mosque rather than worshipping Allah and following Islam.
That's
And a
quite a
lot
deep
of
point, bro.
Sorry?
I want to repeat that again. It's quite a profound point you just made.
A lot of people are worshiping the mosque and not following Islam and not worshiping Allah.
Have you been studying philosophy? You're becoming very philosophical, bro.
It's Islam, bro. It's not philosophy.
Subhanallah.
But the point is, it's like subhanAllah, Allah has given us a lesson that we shouldn't be reliant on buildings and that kind of thing. Yeah, we should be reliant on Allah, and we should be following Islam as a whole way of life. And don't forget the family, because I think a lot of Muslims, especially in the West, have forgotten the family time, quality family time.
Yeah.
A lot of us do holidays and that's it, and on a weekend we just make some food and that's our family time. Even dinners together is on, we're on our phones. So subhanAllah, we should take this, and the way I'm trying to take this, and maybe others can take it, is, of course, there is that emotional attachment to the masjid. But Allah, maybe through this, is giving a message that, you know what? You can do your ritual worship. You can pray salah at home. Yeah, you can pray salah with your family, have a collective prayer. You can now study, make time. That excuse before, oh, I've got no time, I'm wishing that. Now, subhanAllah, we've got the time now. There's no, I've been on Facebook, on social media, there's this famous meme, or quite popular meme going around, which is, if you get through this virus, I'm paraphrasing, without a side hustle or learning something new, then you've wasted your complete time. So really, the way we should look at it, if you get through this lockdown, may Allah raise it quickly above from us quickly, inshallah. If you've not learned something new, read a few books, maybe improve your relationship with the Quran, and adding more prayers to your daily schedule, then you kind of wasted that whole experience, and all you've done is worry, that kind of thing. So with Ramadan coming up, now we can, because what happens is, a lot of us, we go to Taraweeh. A lot of us, unfortunately, we not even understand what the Imam is saying. It's in Arabic. We don't understand Arabic. A lot of us, we are doing the fasting and the mosque, and that's it. It's like a ritual. But, every day it's like a ritual thing. Every year. Now it's completely different. Maybe now we can study what the whole point of Ramadan is. What was the whole point of Ramadan? Maybe, again, just like we were discussing, the atheists in Pakistan, they follow the rules, those youth who turn to atheism, they follow the rules and regulations, Islam, do's and don'ts, and they've forgotten the foundations. Maybe we need to go back to the foundations of Ramadan now as well. So this is a really good chance, subhanAllah. This is a massive, it's a favor. If you look at it, it's a favor from Allah. It's another chance. It's another chance from our merciful Creator, who keeps us giving us chances, and then we become, we take it, and then we go back to our silly ways again. That's the predicament of the humankind, right? So that's for the Muslims. Yeah, yes, we're upset with the mosque, but it's not the end of the world. You can do a lot at home, inshallah, with your family. Yeah. For the non-Muslims, again, I did a little video on this as well. And what I discussed in that video is like a message for non-Muslims. Maybe you guys are watching this. That instead of just worrying about, am I going to die now? What's going to happen? NHS, this kind of thing. Why don't you now channel your worries into the bigger questions of life? Before, the excuse was, I need to get to work, I need to get to the pub, I need to get to the club, I need to meet my girlfriend, boyfriend, I need to do this, that, the other, holiday, whatever. Now you can't go anywhere. Literally, think about it. You can't go on a holiday. Before, it was a case of, oh, that natural disaster, that war, that famine, it's happening in another country. I'm all right, Jack. I'm in my comfortable home. This virus has brought these polite issues at home now. It's so close to it. It's in our life now, right? So is now not the time to think about the bigger questions of life? Where did I come from? What's going to happen after I die? What's the meaning of it all? Is there a God or not? Is Islam the truth? Should I look and study the beautiful, amazing, profound foundations of Islam? This is a golden opportunity for every non-Muslim to do that. They've got the time now. There's no excuse of time. And they've got the resources out there. That's just my message. Sure.
Brilliant, bro. SubhanAllah, it's like you said, there's a lot we can do in this time. It doesn't have to be, just doing the usual. If anything, change is a good thing, and being taken out of your comfort zone is always a very good thing as well, because we grow in opposition to resistance. When we face resistance, when we face a challenge, in countering that and moving forward against that, do we grow as human beings, truly, right? So it's a big opportunity, it's a big blessing. So where can people follow you, bro? Where can they find your stuff?
Don't follow me, follow Quran and Sunnah, as we would say, yeah?
You're becoming too philosophical, bro, honestly. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, so I've got the YouTube channel, which is Dawa Motivation. And if you like to read, I've got a blog which discuss various aspects on motivation to get involved with conversation and positive conversations with Muslim youth and non-Muslims. So there's blogs and there's practical examples of like to do with communication, because I think this is what I've seen. A lot of us, we have the knowledge. A lot of us, we have the academic sources, the references and everything. But how to articulate it, how to connect with another person, how to start the conversation. Should I start the conversation? Should I initiate the conversation? There's a lot of that is missing. We have the knowledge, but we're just not sharing it in the right way. So these blogs, I touch upon that. And then, of course, I've got a page as well on Facebook with Dawa Motivation. Any questions from Muslims who want to ask about how to start a conversation with someone or other tips? And any non-Muslims who are watching this or will watch this later, feel free to ask any question of the Sun. We will not judge you for asking the question. You'll find us being very, very happy and passionate, and we won't get angry or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you like, so mashallah, already I was looking at during the comment section of the live stream itself. There's so many engagements that are going on amongst the Muslims and the non-Muslims that are here, and a lot of it, from what I've seen, is very positive. And this is what we want positive engagement. There's no point calling each other names and being aggressive towards each other. No one's going to achieve anything, right? You're not going to achieve anything. You're just going to, increase in the hatred towards each other, and it's not going to result in anything beneficial. So the best we can do is engage with each other. And okay, so be it. We may never agree, right? But at least we respect each other's differences, and we have delivered what we believe is the truth from our both ends of the spectrum to each other. And we've had that engagement. That's what's important. So keep that discussion going in the comment section. Make sure to subscribe if you guys haven't already. Like the page, share this live stream. And Nadeem, maybe we can do another one possibly next week or the week after. And we'll go into specific topics going on from here. Maybe certain things that you're more interested in and that you can really bring to the table of benefit to people. So maybe we can do some stuff on engagement, how to engage, because I think a lot of us struggle with as well. So and I know your background is in sort of marketing and in doing all this type of public engagement. Why are you smiling? What's so funny?
I don't know, it just felt like smiling, bro.
But yeah, something that you specialize in, bro. Like, we could bring that to the table, and I'm sure people will find that really.
Yeah, definitely, bro. We should now we got time. We should definitely do that, inshallah, and I think it'd be beneficial.
And one last thing, guys. So we've launched the campaign, and let you know as well, Nadeem. So we've launched a campaign which is called A Viral Awakening. So it's basically there's certain elements to the campaign. So all the Muslims watching, share the hashtag, which is hashtag A Viral Awakening. If you go to the IRA Facebook page, there's a lot of content there that you can share. You can make your own.
A rerouted video explaining all this?
Yeah, there's a rerouted video as well that we recorded. So on the IRA YouTube channel, you can watch that video there. There'll be more videos that we put out. Just share the videos, share the hashtag, share the images and the memes that we have on the Facebook pages. Just the key point of the campaign is just to get involved online and sharing the beautiful and compassionate message of Islam with people. And I really believe, bro, that now is the time, more so than probably ever before in recent history, where people are going to be looking for answers about the true nature of their existence. And we have to take...
We've been forced to question ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's an obligation upon us to share the message. So check that campaign out. Also, if you have non-Muslim friends or any non-Muslims that want to find out about Islam, to go to the onereason.org website, but it's onereason.org/AVA, A Viral Awakening, the abbreviation of that. So it's onereason.org/AVA, and you can share that, and it has a live chat service there as well. So any non-Muslims that want to come and ask questions, there's a live chat service you can engage on too. So definitely check that out. There's another live stream I have with brother Subur Ahmed at the end of this.
He's the live stream pro these days.
Guess what the topic is, bro? Guess what the topic is?
Is it nihilism?
No, it isn't. I can't believe you got that wrong.
Darwinian evolution.
Yes, it's to do with evolution. So Sabur's going to be on Friday, and that's going to be an interesting one. So definitely check that out, and I'll schedule in some more lives. I'll add you into another live next week as well. And that's it. Just do the best you can. Make the most of the situation. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you have any questions for Nadeem that you think of later on, put in the question section. Nadeem will address you the best he can. And we're going to take your leave now, guys. Jazakallah khair. May God bless you for coming on and engaging. Keep up the amazing work on the comment section, and we will speak to you next time. Take care.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.